The candles on Daniel's birthday cake flickered, but his voice cut sharper than any flame. "Honestly, Rose," he said, smiling wide at his friends, at Clara, his ex, sitting much too close, "you're not really family, you're just temporary. Clara knows me better than you ever will." Laughter sputtered, then died. His mother Linda's fork froze mid-air. His sister Marcy looked down, pretending to check her phone. Clara smirked like she'd already won. I didn't cry, I didn't argue. My fingers brushed the pearl necklace at my throat, the last gift from my mother, her words echoing, "When they stop valuing, you walk away." "Fine," I said softly. "Happy birthday." Then I stood. The chair scraped back. Every head turned. I didn't say another word. I just left. And that silence, it would become the start of their ruin. I didn't drive straight home after leaving that restaurant. My hands shook too hard on the wheel. Instead, I pulled into a gas station parked under the buzzing fluorescent lights and just sat there. The smell of gasoline clung in the air, mixing with the faint sweetness of the birthday cake still stuck in my throat. Daniel's words replayed like a recording I couldn't shut off. "You're not really family. You're just temporary." That wasn't the first time he cut me down. It was just the first time he did it in public. My name is Rose Miller. I'm 30 years old, a project manager at a tech company in Portland. 5 years I gave to Daniel Harper. 5 years of weekends, holidays, rent, bills, plans. I moved into his apartment, learned his routines, memorized the way he liked his coffee. I thought I was building a life with him. Daniel was 32, an architect who always talked about big deals, but mostly racked up debt chasing investments that never landed. He was charming, though. The kind of man who could walk into a room and make everyone laugh. Everyone except me lately. And then there was Clara, his ex from college, the one who moved back 6 months ago. She slipped in like a shadow at first book clubs, just catching up, running into each other at coffee shops. Daniel swore it was nothing. "She's going through a hard time, Rose. I'm just being supportive." I wanted to believe him. I'd seen Clara once before, years ago at a reunion. She had that effortless beauty that made you feel sloppy no matter what you wore. Tall, perfect hair, the kind of confidence money seems to buy. Standing next to her, I felt like a placeholder in my own relationship. The first real crack appeared at the train station 2 years back. I'd been waiting with 2 heavy suitcases. Daniel and I were supposed to take a weekend trip for my birthday. He got a call, and suddenly Clara needed help moving. He left me standing there, luggage at my feet, watching his back disappear into the crowd. He texted later, "Sorry, she really needed me." Rain check. I told myself it was a one-time thing. But deep down, something shifted that day. Still, I stayed. I stayed when he borrowed money from me for an investment that tanked. I stayed when his mother, Linda, made backhanded comments about how I wasn't really part of their family. I stayed when his sister, Marcy, acted like Clara was some long-lost daughter who'd finally come home. Because that's who I was: patient, forgiving, willing to believe people would change. But then my company offered me something I'd worked toward for years, a promotion to lead our new Seattle branch. $120,000 a year housing covered a view of Elliott Bay from a high-rise apartment. I'd turned it down once before because Daniel insisted we couldn't leave Portland. "My family's here," he said. "I need stability." So I stayed, choosing him over myself. When they offered again, I hesitated. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to pack my bags that day. But Daniel had a way of making me doubt. "You're not ready for that kind of responsibility," he said once, half joking. Besides, Clara could use us around. Clara, always Clara. And yet, when I brushed my fingers against the pearl necklace my mother gave me before she passed, I heard her voice as clear as if she were beside me. "When they stop valuing, you walk away." My mother, Evelyn Miller, had been the only person who truly believed I could do more. She worked double shifts as a nurse to put me through college, even while battling cancer. On her last Christmas, she pressed the necklace into my hands. "Don't waste your life waiting for someone to see your worth," she whispered. "Promise me." I promised. But for years, I broke it. I stayed in a relationship that drained me, hoping Daniel's good side would show again. The weeks leading to his birthday only proved how wrong I was. Clara was everywhere at brunch with him and his family at the gym, where he swore they just bumped into each other. Once I found her perfume on his jacket. He laughed. "You're imagining things, Rose. Don't be insecure. Insecure." That was his favorite word for me. The night of the birthday dinner, I already felt like a ghost at my own table. Daniel laughed with Clara, shared inside jokes, let her cut his steak with her fork like it was their private show, and then he said it, "You're not really family. You're just temporary." I looked at Linda, his mother, waiting for her to defend me. She didn't. I looked at Marcy, his sister, hoping for shame. She looked at her phone. Clara just smirked, triumphant. That was when I knew. I'd been writing myself out of this story by staying quiet, but no more. I touched my necklace. I stood. And when I walked out of that restaurant, I wasn't just leaving the dinner. I was leaving the old version of me behind. What none of them knew was that the Seattle offer was still on the table. And this time, I wouldn't say no. That night, in the gas station parking lot, staring at the glowing, open 24 hours sign, I pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered, then typed, "I accept. I can start in 2 weeks. Send." The future shifted with that click. And Daniel. He had no idea what storm I was about to bring down on him. The Monday after Daniel's birthday, the silence between us was thicker than the Portland fog. He acted like nothing had happened, whistling while making coffee, humming in the shower, asking if I wanted Thai takeout for dinner. I answered in clipped words, "No, fine, whatever." Inside, I burned. I had already accepted the Seattle offer, but I kept that to myself. Let him think I was sulking. Let him believe he still had control. By Wednesday, Clara's presence was undeniable. I walked into Daniel's apartment, technically his, even though I paid half the rent and there was a scarf on the couch. Not mine. Expensive silk perfume, heavy as smoke. Clara dropped by, Daniel said casually. She was upset, needed someone to talk to. She always needs someone to talk to, I snapped. He tilted his head, smirking. Jealousy doesn't suit you, Rose. Jealousy. That word again like a dart. That weekend, he said he was going to the gym. He came back smelling like wine. Clara posted an Instagram story that night, a half-empty bottle, his reflection blurred in the glass. She tagged it Friends Forever. I screenshotted it. My hands didn't shake. Not this time. The next morning, I called Sophia, my closest colleague, the one who knew about Seattle. We met at a diner downtown, the kind of place where the booths squeak and the smell of bacon grease never leaves. "You have to stop covering for him," she said after I spilled everything. "You've been protecting his image while he destroys yours. Enough." "I already accepted Seattle," I whispered. "He doesn't know." Sophia's eyes widened. "That's your leverage. Use it. But be careful, Rose. Men like Daniel, they don't let go easy." She was right. That night, Daniel cornered me in the kitchen. "Clara's going through something serious," he said. "She's sick." I looked up sharply. "Sick how?" He hesitated just long enough to tell me it was a lie. "It's private." "But she needs me. She's your ex." "She's my friend," he shot back. "You wouldn't understand. You're cold sometimes, Rose. Clara. She needs care. You only care about work." There it was, the twist of the knife. He turned my ambition into the problem. I didn't yell. I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the screenshot of Clara's story. I held it up. "This is what care looks like." His jaw tightened. "You're paranoid." "No," I said. "I'm documenting." For the first time, he looked rattled. That night, I emailed Ethan, my cousin, a lawyer. I need advice. Personal, not professional. Urgent. By the time Daniel crawled into bed, smelling faintly of Clara's perfume, I was already planning the first steps of my exit and the first steps of my revenge. The weeks blurred into a pattern, Daniel disappearing, Clara posting cryptic stories, Linda and Marcy pretending nothing was wrong. I played along, smiled at dinners, nodded at small talk. All the while, I was building a quiet case. Ethan met me at a coffee shop one rainy Saturday. He wore a navy suit, even on weekends, his briefcase snapping open with precision. "Lease is in his name," he said, after skimming the documents I'd slipped across the table. "But you've been paying half right, yes. Bank transfers, receipts, everything. Good. Keep those. Courts like paper trails. If he tries to push you out, you can prove contribution. And he tapped his pen, don't confront him directly. Gather first. Always gather first. His words settled into me like steel. By the end of that week, I had screenshots of Clara's posts. Texts Daniel forgot to delete where Clara called him babe. Bank statements proving he borrowed thousands from me for investments that evaporated. Each piece felt like a brick, heavy but building something I could finally stand on. One night, Daniel came home flushed with alcohol. He tossed his jacket onto the couch, collapsed into a chair, and looked at me like he wanted applause. Clara's doctor says it's bad he slurred. She might not have long. I said nothing, just stared. What he snapped. I slid a folder across the table Sophia had helped me dig it up. Clara's medical records clean as a whistle. No illness, not even a hospital visit in 2 years. Daniel's face drained of color. Where did you don't worry? I cut him off, my voice sharp. It's just documentation. For the first time, he had no words. The following Sunday, Linda invited me to brunch. I went curious. She smiled too sweetly over her coffee. Rose, dear, you've been so busy with work. Daniel needs someone who understands him. Clara's been like family for years. Like family. I pressed my napkin flat against my knee. So you're saying I'm not? Her smile didn't falter. You're young, career-driven. That's not what Daniel needs. I looked at Marcy sitting across silent. She wouldn't meet my eyes. That was when I knew they'd all chosen their side. Clara's side. I walked out of that brunch, rain pelting the streets, the pearl necklace heavy at my throat. They thought they'd cut me out. What they didn't see was that I was already carving a path out myself, one lined with every receipt, every screenshot, every lie they thought I'd swallow. The betrayal had been public, but the reckoning, that would be mine. Daniel's 32nd birthday had been the first cut, but the wound didn't truly split open until weeks later when he invited me demanded I come to a dinner at a downtown restaurant. Family only, he'd said, as if that word still meant anything. When I arrived, the table was already half full. Linda, his mother, perched at the head. Marcy, his sister, scrolling her phone. And Clara, always Clara. She sat pressed against Daniel, her hand casually on his arm like she had every right. I slid into my seat, the pearl necklace cool against my skin. I said nothing. My silence was louder than any toast. Dinner passed in forced chatter laughter that sounded brittle. Daniel ordered the most expensive bottle of wine as if debt wasn't dragging him under. Clara leaned in, whispered something that made him laugh too hard. I kept my eyes on the candle flame in front of me. Then came the moment. A server brought out a cake sparklers, fizzing, everyone clapping politely. Daniel stood glass in hand, cheeks flushed with alcohol and pride. I just want to thank my family, he said, gesturing toward Linda and Marcy, and Clara for always being here, for understanding me, for being, well, the one who really knows me. Every eye flicked to me. A ripple of discomfort passed around the table. I didn't move. My fingers brushed the pearls at my throat. Linda smiled tightly, raising her glass. To family, she said. To family. Clara echoed her gaze, locking on mine, smug and victorious. Daniel smirked. Rose, maybe someday you'll understand. But you'll never quite fit, not the way Clara does. The room went still. A fork clattered. Someone coughed. I stood. The chair screeched across the floor, sharp enough to make Clara flinch. Fine, I said, my voice steady, clear. Happy birthday. Daniel blinked. What I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. I placed it on the table right beside the cake. Screenshots, bank transfers, messages. Proof. Clara's face drained of color. What is this? Daniel barked. Documentation, I replied coldly, of where your money went, of who you've been seeing, of the lies you've been feeding your mother and sister. Linda's glass trembled. Rose, this isn't appropriate. Neither is your son taking thousands from me for investments and funneling it into weekends with his ex. Clara pushed her chair back. She's making this up. Really? I tapped the folder. Funny how your perfume keeps showing up in his apartment. Funny how your Instagram stories never quite stay hidden. Funny how your medical records show you're not sick at all. Gasps rippled down the table. Marcy's phone slipped from her hand. Daniel's voice cracked. You went through her records. I leaned in my eyes locked on his. I protect myself. Something you never did. Silence swallowed the room. The candles flickered shadows stretching across stunned faces. I straightened, pulled my coat from the chair. I accepted the Seattle job I announced. I leave next week. So tonight is the last time any of you get to tell me I don't belong. No one moved. No one spoke. I walked out, heels clicking against the marble floor, the weight of the necklace grounding me. Behind me, I heard Clara hiss Daniel's name. Heard Linda's sharp whisper, "What have you done?" I didn't look back. Outside, the night air was cool rain misting the streets. For the first time in years, I could breathe. They thought they'd humiliated me. What they didn't realize was that I had just set their house of cards on fire, and I wasn't done watching it burn. I didn't go home that night. I checked into a cheap motel on the east side of Portland, the kind with thin walls and humming neon lights outside the window. The sheets smelled like bleach. The radiator rattled, but for the first time in months, I felt safe. The next morning, my phone lit up with messages. Daniel, 23 texts in a row. You overreacted. We can talk. Don't do this. Clara's lying. I love you. Linda called twice. Marcy sent one line. You embarrassed all of us. I turned the phone face down and let it buzz until it died. Instead, I opened my laptop. Emails from HR at my company sat at the top. Seattle housing arrangements, moving stipends, a start date confirmed. Seeing it in black and white felt like stepping onto solid ground after years of sinking sand. Still, leaving wasn't enough. Not anymore. They had humiliated me, drained me, written me out like I was disposable. My mother's voice rang in my ears. When they stop valuing you, walk away. I would walk, yes. But I would also make sure they understood what they lost. Ethan met me at a cafe later that week. He looked over the folder of receipts, screenshots, bank transfers, shaking his head slowly. Rose, this isn't just personal betrayal, it's financial. He owes you thousands. If you want, we can file a claim. Small claims court at least. Do it, I said flatly. His brows rose. No hesitation. None. He leaned back, studying me. This isn't just about money, is it? No, I admitted. It's about history, about respect. He wanted to make me small in front of everyone. I want him to know I'm not. Ethan nodded. Then build your case quietly. Let him think you're gone, checked out. The blow hits harder when they don't see it coming. That became my strategy. I moved my things out, piece by piece, using the cover of staying with a friend. In truth, I was shipping boxes straight to Seattle, prepaid by the company. Every lamp, every dish I'd bought, and he took for granted, gone. By the time Daniel realized his apartment would look like a stripped stage. Meanwhile, Sophia helped me dig deeper. She had contacts who pulled Clara's employment records tax filings. That was when the truth surfaced. Clara had a child 4 years old living with her parents outside the city. She had hidden it from Daniel, playing the damsel in distress to keep him hooked. Think he knows? Sophia asked. I stared at the document, the birth certificate. Not yet, but he will. The following Friday, Daniel showed up at my motel door, drunk and furious. You ruined my birthday, he spat. My mother won't even look at me. Clara's furious. Do you feel proud of yourself? I let him rant. When he finally stopped, I said quietly, check Clara's mailbox. You'll find her child's report card. His face twisted. What? Ask her why she never told you. Ask her who the father is. He staggered back like I'd punched him. For once, he had no words. 2 days later, Clara exploded. She stormed into the office where Daniel worked, screaming about betrayal, about money he borrowed and never repaid. Someone filmed it. By evening, the video was online. Architect's girlfriend meltdown downtown. The comments shredded him. I didn't smile, but inside I felt the sharp click of a lock turning. The plan was working. Linda tried one last angle. She called me while I was packing my final box. "Rose, dear, don't do this. Daniel made mistakes, but he's family. You're throwing away a future." I almost laughed. Family doesn't humiliate you in public. Family doesn't take your money and call you temporary. She sighed. "Clara said you were cold." Maybe she was right. Maybe she was, I said, and hung up. By the time I left Portland, Daniel's reputation was in tatters. Clara had turned on him completely, accusing him of using her for money, blasting him on social media. His debts piled higher, and I knew the lawsuit Ethan filed would land soon. I boarded the plane to Seattle with the pearl necklace resting against my collarbone, the folder of documents in my carry-on, and a clarity I hadn't felt in years. When I landed, the company driver whisked me to a high-rise apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. Floor-to-ceiling windows glowed with the city lights reflecting back, a woman I barely recognized, calm, resolute, free. But even then, Daniel wasn't done. He started calling my office, leaving voicemails about working things out. One afternoon, he even showed up in Seattle with Linda and Marcy in tow, staging some kind of family intervention in the lobby. Security stopped them, but I came down anyway. I wanted them to see. Daniel tried to grab my hand. "Rose, don't throw this away. We can fix it. I'll marry you. Right here. Right now." He actually pulled out a ring, cheap and shiny under the fluorescent lights. People gasped. Cameras came up. For a second, it looked like a movie proposal. I smiled, cold sharp. "You don't propose to save your reputation. You don't propose after calling me temporary." I turned to Linda and Marcy. "You wanted me gone, wish granted." Then I walked away, leaving them surrounded by strangers' stares, their spectacle captured on a dozen cell phones. Revenge didn't always need fire or fury. Sometimes it was as simple as refusing to play your part in their script and writing your own instead. Seattle healed me in ways I didn't expect. My apartment overlooked Elliott Bay, the water glinting silver every morning as ferries cut across. The city hummed with possibility, not with whispers about who belonged and who didn't. I threw myself into work leading a new team that actually listened, actually respected me. The paychecks were bigger, yes, but more than that, it was the feeling of being valued for what I brought to the table. And then there was Natalie. We met at a book launch. My company sponsored her laughter carrying across the crowded room. She was everything Clara wasn't: warm, grounded, real. When she asked about the necklace I always wore, I told her the truth. It's from my mother. It reminds me not to settle for less than I deserve. She smiled like she understood. Meanwhile, Daniel unraveled. The lawsuit Ethan filed stuck. A judge ruled he owed me back thousands. Clara exposed his debts online and clients started pulling projects. Word spread. He went from rising architect to man who couldn't even keep his own house together. Clara. She disappeared after her father cut her off. The lies caught up. The sympathy dried out. Last I heard, she left Portland entirely. Linda and Marcy stopped calling. Maybe shame silenced them, or maybe they realized their loyalty to Clara had been a mistake. Either way, I no longer cared. Sometimes I catch myself replaying Daniel's words, "You're not really family, you're just temporary." And every time I smile, because he was right in the way he never meant. I was temporary in his life, long enough to learn, long enough to see through him, but not 1 second longer than I chose. The pearl necklace still rests at my throat, not as a weight anymore, but as a promise kept. My mother told me to walk away when they stopped valuing me. I did, and on the other side, I found myself. To anyone listening, anyone who's been dismissed, diminished, told you don't belong, you do. Sometimes the family you think you need is the very thing holding you hostage. Sometimes freedom looks like boarding a plane, a lone necklace against your skin heart steady for the first time in years. So tell me, if you were in my place, would you have given Daniel another chance or walked away like I did? And if it came down to love or your future, which would you choose? Because me, I chose myself, and I've never once regretted it.